everybody. My name is Devin Monette. I'm joined by my colleague, Amy Moreland. And today we're sharing an in-depth look at the design and the considerations for NSF Strive STEAD Awards. These awards are up to $2,500 and designed to spark interest and engagement for students as they begin to develop the skills necessary to support them in pursuing STEM careers. We'll get into STEAD in a moment, but first I just want to talk about today's agenda. So we wanted to start off by sharing a little bit more of Strive's mission and how that relates to STEAD's role in making that happen. And from there, we're going to address who qualifies with respect to NSF parameters and how our reimbursement process works. And this will lead us into our scoring criteria as we talk about some of the exemplary uh, guidelines that would lead to a favorable application and just what that looks like for each criteria. And then at that point, Amy's going to walk us through the budget and what are some of the allowable costs before talking about our deadline calendar and some additional opportunities. And that should leave us a little bit of time at the end to talk about any questions and answer any questions that you may have. So let me start by introducing NSF Strive. This stands for the U.S. National Science Foundation Science and Technology Research Initiative for the Vermont Economy. This is an initiative led by Landmark College in partnership with Bennington College and the Community College of Vermont, as well as the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. Together, we're working to enable learners of all ages and abilities to have opportunities to explore science and technology. And we aim to do this by broadening the capacity of researchers across the state, increasing the number of students involved in STEM through inclusive practices and in teaching and training, and then also just expanding the interconnectivity of K through 12 schools, higher ed institutions, and the regional community and economic organizations that support them. So all of that is to say that Strive is here to build and enhance inclusive educational experiences in STEM fields so that rewarding, impactful career paths are viable for all Vermonters. And this project is designed so that each partner has a specific niche and that all of the opportunities we provide support a different component in the overall goal. And that being creating an accessible and streamlined pipeline to STEM careers in Vermont. So as you can see in the bottom left corner, right, STEAD really serves as an entry point. As we've learned from industry leaders, awareness is a big component of the challenge that employers face in filling vacancies. And on a number of fronts, we aim to help students visualize viable career paths. But STEAD goes much further than that. There's right, awareness is one thing, but opening up young minds to the principles of science, to what's possible with technology, the excitement and the ingenuity of engineering and the precision of mathematics, those are all kind of core components of how we hope that STEAD funds will be used to really inspire and help students understand the importance of STEM fields in the broader world and their role in making the world a better place. So, quick note on who qualifies. So, STEAD is open to K through 12 educators and administrators, faculty and staff from higher ed institutions, and community organizations here in Vermont. All of our awards are granted on a reimbursement basis. And this means that funds must be administered through a host institution, some sort of financial organization or entity with either 503 501c3 nonprofit status, or just a host organization, meaning that it can't be administered to an individual. Um, so this could be a school host organization or a private community entity. Um, all of those are approved financial structures, but just not to individuals. Um, and of course, the overseeing institution must be in approval of this project. So make sure that as you craft your application, you're communicating with them. Um, and how it'll work is that the awardee is submitting the project would be considered the principal investigator or PI on the project, and they are responsible for budgeting and the project administration as well as the overall management. Okay, let's get into the scoring criteria. So, forgot to mention, but STEAD stands for Science and Technology Educational Access to Development Funds. And in general, we are looking for projects that connect learning to real-world applications. This means finding opportunities to tie into local challenges, to local industry, to emerging areas of focus in STEM. Examples of that are sustainability and climate resilience, natural resource management, uh, health, machine learning, AI, data science, food systems, and agricultural innovation. Um, really, anything that's tied to life or industry in Vermont and has a connection with STEM is eligible. It's really in how you craft your proposal and just making that tie to Strive's mission. So the next few slides are pretty much directly from our scoring rubric. And I wanted to share just kind of an overview of what an exemplary project would look like. So first and foremost, student engagement is key. We want students to be active participants in shaping the experience. So that means inquiry-based learning, experiential design, any way to allow students to help kind of shape their learning will support their interests and just open doors for them to elevate the long-term impact of this experience. Um, and along with that, right, a big part of learning is having fun. Um, if you are to think back on some of your own most like memorable learning experiences, uh, I think we could all think of a seedling event that we had that kind of inspired us to take a career path. And in those moments, you don't even necessarily realize that you're learning. And that's what we're looking for, these types of experiences that make students hungry for more and really inspire them to ask questions and for them to then seek kind of the next steps in that career path. Um, Instead, really, it's just going to be thought of as just like a spark for a much bigger learning trajectory. Third, right, the review team wants to see connections to local STEM pathways. So putting these funds into areas where there are connections with, the industry opportunities that are available in that area. Um, and doing that with a tie from concepts that they already know and kind of showcasing some of the advanced applications of that skill in a career. Bridging a familiar concept with the new and exciting gives them kind of that ladder of growth to encourage them to take the next steps on their own. And really, like I was saying before, just giving them that vision of what's out there. Where can they see themselves in 5, 10, 20 years and what opportunities are right in their neighborhood or here in Vermont. Um, So as with any project, having a project that is repeatable and can be built upon for additional iterations is really key. And that's not to say that we expect that with only $2,500, but if the project's a one-off event or it has a small timeline, thinking about how you can incorporate into the design sort of those uh, self-evaluation or ways to extend outside of the funding, and how can you maybe um, find equipment that can be used on multiple fronts? How can uh, you know, build some stepping stones so that this project then opens doors to other activities or other grants that you could seek? Those are all kind of bonus points and things that are going to really read favorably with the review team. And yeah, building out curriculum, having something that then could be taken by any other teacher and applied and used. That's a great way to just kind of track your progress and have a replicable experience for students. So lastly, Vermont, right, has many challenges when it comes to STEM, excuse me, and explicitly addressing these challenges in your application is really key to conveying that you understand Strive's mission. So that's what we're really can't emphasize enough, is just having explicit connections to how it supports students in rural areas. How does it address inclusion gaps with regards to learning styles? How does it bolster dated learning materials or facilities? What is kind of the emphasis on general awareness of careers? Those are all things that are gaps in the STEM learning curve for Vermont students. So we're looking for proposals that address those. Um, and the last thing I'll say with regards to our review rubric, right, is that um, our the reviewers will use their discrepancy kind of to assess these. There's a set matrix of criteria that I just went over, but in the end, the clarity of your project, the cohesiveness, the you know letting the support structures come through to show what strengths your experience or your institution has. Those are all going to read favorably and really make your application stand out. Um, right. We, like many grant awards, reviewers may not all have direct experience in your area of focus or with the audience you serve. So just writing to uh, make it as clear and explicit so that it ties to the Strive mission, it ties to the purpose of STEAD, and that it can be easily understood by anybody. That being said, we have a basis of K through 12 STEM educators who will compose our review team, as well as college faculty and community leaders. But clarity and just conveying uh, that core connection is really important. Um, and then also, right, as we'll go over the deadlines in a second, but each submission will receive feedback. All of our funding opportunities, we really are working to make sure that anyone who applies is getting support so that they have that they learn from the process and that they're in a better position for the next round if they were not awarded. So we'll be providing feedback, and revised submissions are welcome. Um, we uh, we kind of want people to, if they don't get it, we want to see them come back with those improvements, and that is also favorable. Um, I think that covers everything I was going to speak on. Amy, would you like to talk a little bit about the budget?
Yeah, just a little bit on the formalities. So I'm Amy Moreland. I'm Research Administrator here at the Strive offices here at Landmark College. It's nice to meet y'all, and thank you for dropping in today. Um, yeah, so you'll notice when you go to the Strive website and looking at those STEAD application materials, that as part of it, there's a downloadable template of the budget and use of funds. So definitely use that tool. Next slide, I'll kind of have an image of that. It's a pretty simple budget tool, but you'll want to have a realistic budget. It is up to $2,500. So this is a mini seed grant, if you will, to have a nice project in your classroom or other educative space. So it's going to support your project goals. So just note that at this mini grant cost, there's no indirect or personnel costs allowed. So this is going direct expenses to your project. Um, want that budget to ensure expenses are reasonable and maximize your student impact. So by that kind of NSF budgeting lingo, reasonable is you do a little homework to look for maybe some equipment you might need, do some comparison prices, and that's kind of a reasonable accounting of what you might want to budget for to have that successful project. And as far as the project start date, these go up to 1 year. So we should have about a month after you submit this application and all the reviewers complete their scoring. Um, we'll have a call about a month after. So in this case, if you were to apply for the November review deadline, you should know by December and you can begin that project date for up to 1 year. So December to December in that case. So it's a 12-month project. And we are very present people. We are here to support. That is my entire role. So we will help support and guide you with all the steps at the post award conversation. Let's go to the next slide, Devin. And so you'll notice on the application, you'll download this template. If you take a look at it, it's just a very simple Excel spreadsheet. On tab 1, there's an example, and this is just a sample budget right here I put on the screen. You'll notice the direct expenses. What might that entail? And so looking at those reasonable costs, maybe you want to take your students on a field trip or go a distance and there's going to be some travel. Maybe you're putting on an event or a workshop, equipment and our other supplies. So actually look at the amounts and try to include as much detail of each expense as possible. You'll see that description line. We do have words like etc., but if you cannot use words like etc., so maybe you're looking at, oh, I actually know this lab materials. I need what it's called. You can name it. You can tell us exactly what it is. We aren't looking for a narrative in this case, but more of a general description so that we see that, for example, this $686 might go to something specific. Um, yeah, so just spend a little time researching exactly what you want to do and exactly where that money is going to really help get the project where you would like to be. Think about those budget line items and not just guesstimate or do too many round numbers. And that's just good practice as we're building our own research capacity. And if you go for any bigger budgets later, that we really encourage that space as well. You'll have a little bit of practice on this kind of sample, smaller scale STEAD level project. Let's go next. Um, yeah, so that budget will be attached with your application. And that's all noted in the details there on our webpage. And then just kind of looking at how we have quarterly cycles. So it's we accept applications and project applications at any point, but we gather our review team 4 times a year. So the first review team's coming up in November, and we allow the team about a month to decide the award winners. Um, and so that project start date in this upcoming review cycle, for example, would be December 15th. We'll have another cycle, keep submitting those projects. We'll have another gathering of the review team in February. same kind of note. You can see that this is ongoing. Our NSF awards go for another 3+ years. So we expect these cycles just to be kind of a continuum. We will probably have many awardees starting and stopping projects at different times along the way. Um, and if you're not quite ready to apply, but you really want to get involved in the process or get a little behind the scenes, if you want a little bit of grant experience, here's an open call. Consider joining our NSF Strive review team. So maybe this is a way you want to jump in first, get to know the review of projects, and then what at some point you might want to even submit your own. So just about an hour or two of being part of our review panel, especially in the K-12 spaces. You are the experts here. So if you're interested, can definitely reach out to Devin in operations, and we would love to get to know your interest in doing the review. See what's next. That's the end. All right, so let's open it up to some questions. We also have the direct link to the application that has basically two parts. It's an online application and you submit the budget.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.